Payback actually started as a magazine article called Last Night a DJ Saved My Business, which I had done for a magazine that James Bernard and Reggie Dennis were going to start after they left Double XL. I forgot to mention, the Last Night a DJ Saved My Business was going to be about that first generation of label owners, independent label owners, who basically funded the golden age of hip-hop. So it was Corey Robbins and Steve Plotnicki of Profile Records, the home of Run DMC, and Tom Silverman of Tommy Boy Records, which brought you De La Soul. So I wanted to talk about these guys, especially since even though they were competitors, they were all friends because they saw themselves as part of this larger struggle to get hip-hop out into the world. So it went from being just about those guys to being about the entire 30 to 40 year span of the growth of the business. And the main question I wanted to answer was, how did this obscure street culture become this, the world's predominant pop culture and a multi-billion-dollar business? There's something about hip-hop that almost attracts people who have an entrepreneurial spirit, and I think that one of the reasons is that hip-hop was shut out of sort of traditional modes of distribution and communication for so long. So, of course, you're locked out of the clubs, you have to go to the parks. You're locked out of the newspapers and the magazines, you got to distribute flyers. You're locked out of radio, you got to pass cassettes around and carry it in your boombox. And I think that spirit of hip-hop, that entrepreneurial spirit, that hustling spirit, really continued through the decades. And I think as a result, hip-hop tends to breed artists who have that entrepreneurial spirit. And I think more than any other form of music in America, usually, like, you think about rock and roll, artists consider themselves, like, the business is dirty. They don't want anything to do with the business part of it. It sullies the art for, a lot of rock and rollers. But in hip hop, it's like, I made this album, I'm selling it out of the trunk of my car. No shame in my game. Having a commercial consciousness about what your sales are can help and it can hurt. As an A&R man, I had wished sometimes that the artists that I work with felt a little more conscious of that so that I wouldn't have to be so conscious of it. But I think it can also hurt. I think that if you're just constantly chasing after that next hit, then you're afraid to innovate. And so it's a tension. But I think the best art often comes from people who do have a sense of marketing. A great example of this is Chuck D of Public Enemy. Even though Chuck created art that has lasted through the decades, Chuck is nothing but a consummate pitchman. Nobody was a better advertising copywriter than Chuck D. Nobody came up with better slogans than Chuck D. Don't believe the hype, and bring the noise, and so on. So I really feel like if you have both of those consciousness, if you can reach the bourgeois and rock the boulevard, if you can have a sense of what your marketability is and a sense of creating something that's new and important and exciting, then you probably have a jump on 99% of the people out there.